Hi YouTube, my name is Scott, and as you can know by the title of this video, this is my coming out story. I'm going to try and make it as short as possible, but without leaving out any of the juicy details. So here we go. So in elementary school, I was not out in the younger grades, like 2, 3, 4. I was obviously too young to even know what sexuality was and what being gay was. I was just kind of me, and I didn't really care what other people thought about that. I was the weird kid. No one was really friends with me. I mean, I kind of hung out with people, but then I would say something that was weird, and they would sometimes physically run away. I don't look back at it as I was the weird kid, but that's just the way that it was now. That when I was there, I didn't see myself as a weird kid, but looking back I realized I was. But it didn't bother me then, it doesn't bother me now. I have great friends now, so it was honestly just back then. So then around grade 5, I became really close with this core group of people. 3 girlfriends, 2 guy friends. There was just kind of the 6 of us. We were kind of, weird enough to say it, but we were kind of the popular group. We were the ones who always hung out after school at the park next to the school and went out for lunch instead of sitting in class. So we were the cool kids, which I hate myself for saying that, but we were. And then in grade 6, one of my girlfriends, girlfriend, not girlfriends, not in a relationship. She came up to me and was like, so I was talking to my sister and I'm pretty sure you're gay. And I was like, what? And she was like, well, she actually thinks she might be bisexual. And I was like, what? She's like, well, are you? And I was like, well, and at this point I had never really given it any thought because I didn't really know what that necessarily meant. But I said, sure. I was like, I guess I'm bi. And so then that was just kind of within our little friend group. They were just kind of like, oh, okay, you're bi, cool. No one really thought anything about it. I didn't really think anything about it. Yeah, and then about a week later, she came up to me and she said, I think you're gay. And I was like, what? And she was like, I think you're gay. I was talking to my sister and she kind of said that bisexuality is just kind of like a crossroads to being gay, which I know now is completely not true. Bisexuality is a full, sexuality, sexual orientation in its own right mind. But in grade 6, little of me, I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Going from liking girls to liking boys and girls to liking just boys. Seems like a reasonable pathway to be on. And I was just like, okay, sure. And that was basically me coming out to my friends. That was it. They outed me. They were like, hey, you're bi, hey, you're gay, and I just kind of accepted it. I had had enough hardship in my life to try and make rough C's in my little friend group, so now that I was part of the popular group and I had friends, and I knew deep down that it was true, I wasn't going to say anything otherwise. It wasn't exactly my time to come out, but that's when it happened. So then grade 6 happened, grade 7 happened, grade 8 happened. I was fine, I was happy, I had friends. Life was good, I couldn't have asked for anything else. And then I graduated, left almost all of my graduating class of 30 people behind. I went to a really small school. Left my 30 friends behind. I went with one other friend to my high school, and that was where my life really started getting nice and fun and good. So I went into grade 9 not knowing anyone, because I only came with one other person, going into a school with 1,000 kids from a class of 30, a school of 200. And I went in and I was scared out of my mind, but I was also so excited for what was going to happen. So I went in, I had fun, the year started to end, and towards the end of the year, well, actually no, that's not true, because it was in October. In October, so, I guess the second month of me being in school, I decided that I wanted to come out to my mom. So it was in October. It was October 2011. It was actually October 11th, so thinking back now, it was 11/11/11. It was National Coming Out Day, which is October 11th. and I was babysitting. So that night I was babysitting one of like my younger brother's friends' younger brothers, which was like this like baby at the time. And so I was babysitting this boy, and we were just like hanging out, and then he fell asleep, and I was sitting on the couch, and I don't know what spirit moved inside me. I think partially it was because it was National Coming Out Day, and I was just like, okay, Mom, I think I'm gonna come out to you tonight. And so I called her. I wasn't at home, so I called her, and I was like, Mom, are you going to bed now? She was like, no, I'm gonna wait for you. And I was like, okay, they should be home around whatever time. Don't go to bed. I want to talk to you when I get home. She was like, okay, fine. Is everything okay? And I was like, yeah, everything's fine. She was like, okay, I'll talk to you when you get home. So I was just I just stuck with the rest of the night. I was just figuring out in my head like what I was going to say, how I was going to say it, how I was going to explain myself to her, because I know she wasn't just going to be like, okay, whatever, just let's go to bed now. I knew she was going to like want to know why, because if I was someone else, if I was in someone else's shoes, I would want to know. Seriously? I was trying so hard to make it one streamlined video. Anyways, so I was sitting in this house. I went home. I got a drive home from the parents of the kid that I was babysitting. I went home. I walked in. My mom was sitting on the couch just like lounging, watching something on TV. And I walked in, took my jacket off, took my shoes off, sat down next to her, and I was like, hi. She was like, hi. I was like, how was your day? Good. Blah, blah, blah. A little small talk. And I was like, so? And she was like, yeah, you want to talk? And I was like, yep. And she was like, what's wrong? I was like, nothing's wrong. She said, okay. And I said, so? And I just kind of looked at her. And we were sitting like on opposite sides of the couch looking at each other. And I said, I'm gay. And to this day, and then like from immediately after to this day, I cannot remember saying the words. I cannot picture in my head like going to my mouth saying I'm gay. I can't. I don't know. I think I just went into like autopilot mode. My body was just like, I can't deal with this right now. But I said it. I know I did, because we had like an hour conversation afterwards about it. But I said it. And she just kind of looked at me, looked at the ground, was kind of like, okay. And after, like, the whole kind of conversation after that was a little bit of a blur. It was just kind of talking about, how do you know? And I was like, well, how do you know you're straight? And she said, well, I love your father. And I was like, fair enough. And I was like, well, you know how you like guys? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, well, I do too. She was like, okay. And then she just kind of gave me like the motherly warnings, like be careful of drugs, be careful of unprotected sex, be careful of blah, AIDS, diseases, all that stuff. She was like, you know how that stuff runs in the gay community? And I was like, really? How do you know that? Because anyway. So yeah, that was how I came out to my mom. She was really supportive, really loving. At the end, I was like, did you know? She was like, no, I had no idea. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah, I had no idea. And I was like, really? She was like, no, I didn't. I was like, okay, whatever you say. Because a lot of my friends at this point were like, I knew. Anyway, so that was how I came out to my mom. And then at the end, she was like, I love you, give me a hug. She was like, does anyone else know? I said, no, no one else knows. And she said, are you going to tell your father? And I said, yeah. She said, would you rather me tell him? And I said, yeah, actually I would. Me and my dad, we're not that close. So it was a little bit easier for her to tell him. So she was like, okay, I'll tell him. And I said, okay. And that was and she was like, okay, let's go to bed. Because at this point it was like 2 a.m. And so we went to bed. And then 2 days later, so like nothing happened the next morning. It was just kind of like got up, got ready for school, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then like 2 or 3 days later, she came up, she's like, so I talked to your dad last night. I told him, he seemed fine, didn't really say much. And I was like, okay. She said, can you go talk to him though? And I said, yeah. So then that night, I went and I sat down on the couch with him and I was just like, Dad, I heard Mom told you. And he was just like, yep. And I said, and he was just kind of like, you're my son, I love you, nothing could ever change that, and was just kind of like, and give me a hug. He's not like the most affectionate guy, so getting a hug was kind of a lot, but he was very accepting. I knew both of them would be, for the most part. There's always going to be doubt in your head, but it was very reassuring that they both were very accepting. I was so lucky in that aspect because I know a couple of my other gay friends, the parents have not been very accepting, and they have not been very supportive. I haven't had any friends who have had like extreme cases, like getting kicked out of the house, but I have had friends who are, the parents are just kind of like, whatever, and like in a bad way, just kind of shoved it under the carpet, never want to talk about it again. So, but yeah, I was very lucky in my instance. So that was how I came out to my mom and my dad. I have 2 younger brothers. I've never explicitly told them. It's been like, what, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's been like 3-4 years. I've never sat them down. I was like, I'm gay. But I feel like they probably know, because I'm pretty flamboyant. But you never know. They're 12, so I don't even know if they know what gay is yet. They probably do. I mean, they say that's so gay, so. Anyways, so I've never explicitly told them, but I'm pretty sure they know. My extended family, again, I've never explicitly told any of them. I've never like sat them down at a family gathering and been like, so, Auntie Carol, I'm gay. I didn't really feel the need to. I'm not extremely close with any of them. The one thing I did do was I was at my cottage one time, and my ex-boyfriend cottage is near me, and so I saw him on the beach one day, and then I walked over to my mom and I was like, guess who that was? And she was playing bocce ball, which is like this beach game, with my aunts and my grandma, and they were just kind of like playing bocce ball, and I walked over and I was like, guess who that was? I was saying this to my mom, but they could obviously hear. She was like, who? I was like, that was Cameron. And she was like, Cameron? I was like, yeah. And then I turned to my aunts and I was like, my ex-boyfriend. And they just kind of like, and just kind of kept playing. I asked my mom later that evening if like they said anything. I wasn't even like trying to come out to them. I was just telling my mom that I saw my ex-boyfriend and it was weird. But she was like, nope, they hadn't said anything. They seemed supportive. I've talked to them since, not about it, just in general, and they haven't really said anything. So I assume they heard it. Like, it was pretty like, that was my ex-boyfriend. Like, they heard it. So I assume they're very supportive. One of them is very religious. So I was kind of surprised with that, but yeah, I've been very lucky. My family's been so supportive. Yeah, it's been a breeze. So I'm just kind of living life now, living the gay life. Not even really, because I'm 18, turn 19 end of January, so excited for that. Gonna go out, club a little bit, have a little bit of fun. But yeah, so that was my coming out story. I was very lucky. Again, there's the whole It Gets Better campaign for anyone out there who is looking at coming out, who hasn't come out yet. Feel free to like message me or like comment in the comments below about either your experience, if it was good, if it was similar to mine, if it was bad, because I want this to be like very fun, like loving, like no hate. So I hope everyone's experience was as good as mine, or if you haven't come out yet, is going to be as good as mine, because mine was like a fairy tale ending. Everyone was very supportive. So yeah, but if you have any questions, like feel free to ask me, message me, or whatever. So I hope to make this YouTube channel a thing. I'm not gonna be like I'm posting videos every how often, because this is literally the first one, but I hope to be making YouTube videos in the future. So if you enjoyed, make sure to like down below and subscribe. But yeah, that was my coming out story. Thanks for watching. Bye everyone.